Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar for today. We're going to give a few minutes for some people to still join us, but we are glad everyone is here this morning. I'm Carmen DeVoe, and I serve as a Family Engagement Coordinator, and today we have Brian Atkinson with us. He is the Transportation Demand Manager, Management Manager, and he is here to talk to us about how to get around UAB to and from residence halls, buildings. So it will be a very interesting and informative webinar. So just a few housekeeping items. You will have a chance to ask questions. So use the Q&A section to ask your questions. We are also live streaming live on Facebook. So if you would like to post your questions on Facebook, we'll be monitoring that as well. After the presentation, you will be able to view it again or share it with your student on Facebook. And then within a week, we will post it on our website, uab.edu/families, and you can watch it again. And it'll have captions, and you can share it with any other students or family members that would like to know how to help your student. The other very important thing that I want to ask you to help us with is at the end of the webinar, you will receive a survey. And it is very important and helpful for us to know what your opinions are, how else we can help you if the webinar was helpful, what other types of webinars or information you would like. And by all means, please feel free to email us at UAB, families@uab.edu, and we'll be glad to reply to your messages. So I think we are ready to start. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce again Brian Atkinson, and he serves as the TDM manager here at UAB. So welcome, Brian, and thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Carmen. As you noted, my name is Brian Atkinson, and my full title is Program Manager for Transportation Demand Management. Now, if that title sounds made up, it's because it is. So UAB several years ago tried to do a study to kind of identify, well, basically where to park everybody's cars. And so in that study, it turned out that with the growth that was projected and the number of people that were coming to campus at the time, that we may need up to 4 parking decks. So we do an estimate to identify the first deck, and it comes back at about $40 million. That's about $30,000 of parking space, or as I like to say, more expensive than most of the cars that will park in that space. So that just really wasn't sustainable. So we kind of changed our focus to 3 more important things. First of all, how do we get your student to UAB? How do we get them around once they're here? And then how do we get them home or wherever they need to go at the end of their day? So you can see how that might change the focus of what you're doing. Now, luckily, we are in the central business district of the city of Birmingham. So there already are lots of different ways to get around, including walking, bicycling, bus, on-demand trips, driving, and then a host of other options. And there's new transportation options happening all the time. Now, one of the benefits of being at UAB is that your student will not only understand what these various transportation options are, but if they begin to use them, they'll actually know which methods are best for which trips, which can be very helpful, for them throughout the rest of their life as the transportation landscape changes. The first thing you'll need to know is the one way your student will be able to get around most efficiently most of the time is with their own 2 feet. So the campus is relatively flat. In fact, from the farthest east to the farthest west, the entire campus is 1.5 miles wide. And almost every place your student's going to need to go, including the Hill Center, the dining halls, the residence halls, are all within a half mile of the Hill Center. So a short 10, 15-minute walk for them to get just about anywhere on campus. Now, bicycling is becoming a lot more advantageous on campus. Sorry about that. Advantageous on campus. on 10th Avenue, we just opened up our first, a couple of years ago, our first bike lanes. Those are dedicated lanes for bicycling. We have bicycle racks at most buildings, and you can register, your student can register their bicycle through the UAB transportation office. There's no cost for registration, and we'll provide them a free UAB bike helmet and a U-lock for them. Now, I typically do this in front of live audiences, but I kind of want you all to kind of raise your hand. I know I can't see you, but raise your hand if you have been on a bus anywhere in the world. London, Paris, New York, Chicago, DC, anywhere. Most everybody's hands are usually up about this time. Now, I want you to keep your hand up if you've been on a bus in Birmingham. Now, again, I can't see you, but whenever I do this in front of a live audience, almost everybody's hands have gone down. So the reason I do that exercise is that we often go to various cities around the country and are happy to jump on public transportation and get around, yet we don't do it as often in Birmingham. But Birmingham was actually founded on public transportation. The city only exists because two railroads intersected just north of Birmingham. In fact, the entire city was laid out originally around the electric streetcar system. In fact, we had one of the most robust streetcar systems in the entire country let's see, in 1948. We had almost 93 million trips by public transportation. Today, that number is only about 3 million. So just saying that to say, look, we can do this, but part of the way we need to change as far as the city in order to make it better is to provide better service. Well, that's one of the things that is taking place already. So this the first bus service on the slide is a new program called Birmingham Express. That's Bus Rapid Transit. What Bus Rapid Transit is, it's kind of like light rail on wheels. So they operate on dedicated lanes. They transverse the city from the far west to Birmingham Crossplex all the way to Woodlawn on the east side. Running on those dedicated lanes, they have signal prioritization. So as they pull up, they can change that light. And it's all about being able to get people across the city much more quickly than if they were driving alone. Now, if you aren't familiar with our local regional bus service, the Max Transit, you'll be surprised that it goes to many of the local suburbs. Matter of fact, from UAB, you can get to the Art Museum, you can get to the Botanical Gardens, you can get to Uptown, Homewood, lots of different locations, and they've got over 20 different routes, and those trips are pretty inexpensive. They have a real-time bus app that'll show you where you can plan your trips as well. Now, on campus, we have a free service to help circulate people around. That's called the Blazer Express. Matter of fact, the only thing your students will need to get on it is their UAB 1 card. We have 6 different routes currently operating. There's no cost, like I said, to ride. The routes, the hours vary by route. So please go to the uab.edu/Blazer Express for information, specific information about the hours and those routes. Now, we have an important app called Double Map. And I want you all to go ahead and download this app if you wouldn't mind, and make sure your students have this app. This will show you where the buses are in real time. So with Birmingham Express and Max Transit, they operate on a fixed time schedule, meaning 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, etc. Our buses run on a constant circulation. And the reason we do that is to reduce the amount of time anyone has to wait at a stop. So if you'll use this either QR code, or you can actually find the link on our website as well. It'll show you where the location of the buses are in real time. You can click on each stop, and that'll tell you where what routes serve that stop, and also when the next bus or two is expected to arrive. So very handy for helping students get around campus. Now, you're all familiar with the Ubers and Lyfts of the world. I'm sure you've probably used them before. And we are served by those ride-hailing apps, and that's a very handy way to get around. Now, the Birmingham On Demand, which you see on the screen, is a new service that launched at the end of 2019. And the only difference between Uber and Lyft and Birmingham On Demand is that Birmingham On Demand has a smaller footprint. So it covers a lot of the downtown Birmingham, goes out to as far as Avondale and then Crossplex on the west side. But the main difference between it and things like Uber and Lyft is that Birmingham On Demand only costs $1.50 one way. So really inexpensive, very efficient way to get around downtown Birmingham. We also have launched during at the end of 2020, the city launched a shared micromobility, which is just a fancy term for the electric bikes and scooters that are rentable. You'll see them located in various areas around campus, and those are really good for like a short, you got to get across within a mile trip, and you got to go really quick. You can just have that app downloaded and unlock the bike or the scooter and then get on your way. Now, UAB provides its own free on-demand trips, and there are two different services that we provide. So one is Blaze Ride, and that is for students that may have mobility challenges. Those students would need to contact Disability Support Services, and once they do and they go through the eligibility process, they'll be set up to be able to request those rides. Now, both the Blaze Ride and Safety Escort only operate within the UAB footprint, so it's just the campus itself. And the hours for Blaze Ride are 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Now, Safety Escort is available to all students and employees. There's no other eligibility required. There's no cost to it, again, operating on the UAB footprint. And it operates, it's kind of like a late night on-demand service, operates from 9 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. Now, outside of that 9 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., if your student was to call the 934-8772 number, 205-934-8772, someone will answer that phone at 24 hours a day. When we're not operating the service from 9 p.m. to 5:30 a.m., it goes to police dispatch and they're able to assist your student. Now, to request both Safety Escort and Blaze Ride, it's important for your student to download this Tap Ride app. And with Tap Ride, operates again similar to the Uber, Lyft, and Birmingham On Demand. You have an app, you can put in the location of where you're going, where to pick you up, where you're going, and it'll show you where, it'll give you an estimated time of arrival. If they've added their cell phone number to it, it'll actually allow the driver to send them a honk so they could wait right inside the door. The driver can honk and tell them, hey, I'm here, and can be a very handy service. And again, here's the phone numbers for both Safety Escort and Blaze Ride. If for some reason the app is not working, which hasn't happened to us yet, they'll be able to also call to get this service. All right. So I know a lot of you are probably interested in parking at UAB. First thing to know is that you must have a UAB parking permit to be able to park in one of our facilities. Now, we'll point out we don't manage the on-demand streets. Those are handled by the city of Birmingham, and there's an actual app called Park Mobile that will help your student if they plan to use on-street parking. So again, to park in UAB parking lots, you will need to get a UAB parking permit. Now, these sales or orders for the permits began June 1st at 8 a.m. We still have permits available both in housing and for commuters. To order the permit, you basically go to our website. There's information about all of this cost information is on the website. There's some maps and frequently asked questions to assist you. There's even things like estimated walking distances to help identify what may be the best zone based on where your students come from. Once they order it online, they choose one option from the ones that are listed, and then the permits are mailed to the students. Now, permits are limited in quantity and sold on a first come, first served basis. So when they go in, if the option that their primary option is not shown to them, then that permit is no longer available. So they'll just need to pick from the permits that are still showing up as an option. If the school year begins and there's no options showing, and this has happened, typically only happens in the fall, but if, and occasionally in the spring, if they have an issue where the permit, there are no options showing up online, they should contact our office, and our office will be able to put them on a wait list. And then usually takes us a couple of days once school starts. So they may need to do on-street parking for the first couple of days, but we typically get that within the first week, we've got the wait list cleared out. So they order online, the permit is mailed to the student. Now they're not actually paying for it at the time they order it. The payment for the permit is applied to student accounting at the beginning of the semester. And I believe, don't hold me to this, but I believe those charges will start to appear somewhere around August 18th. So if they've already ordered a permit, they should be looking at their student account somewhere around the 18th for when those permit fees will be applied. If your student needs or has a need or during the year has an accident and has a need for temporary ADA, or if they need permanent ADA accessible parking, they will need to come to our office. Don't worry about going online. Just have them come to our office, but make sure they bring the ADA placard. And that ADA placard has to be in their name. And the reason we do this, we've got 3 major hospitals around us. So ADA parking is an extremely important part of our parking system. And we know that your kids are probably your grandma and grandpa's favorite grandchildren, and they hate the idea of them walking all the way across that parking lot. So we do require that those spaces are, that the placards are registered to the individual student to make sure that the spaces are available for those that need them most. All right. Despite rumors you may have heard, we really do not like giving out parking tickets. Y'all are our customers. The last thing that's going to make you happy is to get a parking citation. So what it's important to impress upon your students is to follow the rules and regulations. So if your student has a valid permit, they're parked in the zone that permit is valid for, they're not parked in an ADA space or something designated for carpool or some other purpose, they'll never get a ticket from us. And so it's very important that they read our parking policies. All of that information is on our website. There's also an interactive map of the student parking that'll help you. You can search a building or you can search a parking zone, and it will help you kind of navigate the map. Also, you can put on the layers. It'll show you the safety escort boundaries. It'll show you the Birmingham on demand, a lot of different information on it. And like I said, it's got that estimated walking distance. For those students, especially those that are not going to be living on campus, the estimated walking distance can be very helpful in terms of helping them determine what zone is going to be best for them. Because what they should do is once they register, they'll know about where their classrooms are, and then they can determine based on that building what's going to be the best zone, because that estimated walking distance will show from the farthest space in a zone to each of the major academic classrooms. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that the Blazer Express shuttles can reduce a lot of those walking distances. So, for example, Zone C, which is right next to my office, it's only 0.66 miles from the Hill Center, which is about a 12 to 15-minute walk, depending on how fast or slow your student may walk. But the purple route will pick them up in the lot and drop them off right in front of Zone B. And it doesn't take, really, in terms of time, doesn't take much, doesn't add much time to their trip. Before I finish, I'm almost done, but before I finish, I want to cover just a few more options that we have available in services. The first is motorist assistance roadside service. We can help you with dead battery. We can jumpstart a car. We can add air to a flat tire. If the keys are locked in the car, we can help you get into it. Or if you run out of fuel, we can take you to get gas, but we actually aren't going to buy you gas, especially with today's prices. And those hours are available, and you just, to get that service, you contact us at 205-975-6277. Now, I know I raised my hand earlier, and I kind of feel foolish doing it again, but I want you to raise your hand if your student's not going to be bringing a car to campus, or you haven't told them that they're not going to bring a car to campus. If you got your hands up, a lot of the things I've talked about before in terms of the bus service, the on-demand trips, the scooters, and electric bikes, those are all good ways for them to get around. Now, this Commute Smart program that you'll see on the screen will actually pay students that aren't traveling to and from campus by themselves. So if they're carpooling, taking the bus, or some other manner, and other than driving alone, then they basically register with Commute Smart, and they'll pay them for that. They also provide emergency ride home for those that are registered and are actively logging. These are the days that they carpooled or did something else. We also have a couple others services, just especially for any students that are coming from out of town. There's an airport shuttle between campus and the Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, picks up at Blazer Hall. We also have regional, national, and international travel. The Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport has both domestic and international destinations, and then regional transportation through things such as Amtrak, Greyhound, and Megbus, which can be very good, inexpensive options for getting around the region. So that's basically the end of my presentation. So at this point, I think we would just open it up to any questions.
Thank you. That was very informative. Even I learned some things. I needed help with a flat tire this morning. So now I know who to call. But thank you very much, Brian. And we do have a couple of questions, very interesting questions. One, I took the liberty of asking when you posted Groom, the Groom information for transportation. So the question was, we are out of state and have a late night flight only to Birmingham. So wondering if there is a shuttle from Atlanta to UAB so we can send our student during the day. And I believe you mentioned Groom. Is that what you mentioned earlier?
Correct. We have Groom transportation. Let's see. I've got the website.
And it follows. I have another follow-up question with Groom. Is Groom shuttle free of charge?
It is not free of charge. They are an independent operator, and so they do require a cost for their service. It's not very expensive.
Right.
Matter of fact, I want to say, let's see what the current. Let's see. I was in the middle of a live presentation one day, and someone had asked the question, and I want to say it was like $49 or something like that. Let's see. I'm just pulling up the airport And they do actually operate from to the Birmingham Airport is one of the options that's now listed on their site. And that's actually a change. And those changes occur all the time. Let's see, I'm just doing a random search just to kind of quickly see what the current prices are showing as.
And again, that website would be groomtransportation.com. If anybody wants to just check it out and see about transportation from the airport in Atlanta towards here. And
Yeah,
it's probably
showing up.
closer there. Mhm.
Yeah, it's showing up as right now is $43. So that's been consistent basically all summer. So it's a lot cheaper than
Yeah.
buying them a car and having to keep up with the car just to get around. And one of the things I always encourage those, especially either if they're flying through Atlanta or if they live in Atlanta or if they live kind of to the east of Atlanta, is that could also be an option where you just take them that far, drop them off, and they are able to get the rest of the way on that shuttle. So it can be pretty handy and inexpensive way to get them back and forth. But that's a great question.
It sounds a great, sounds like a great option. There's another question that says, I believe Greyhound Bus Depot is a flu box from campus. Greyhound buses from Nashville arrive from Nashville to UAB only on Sundays at 2 a.m. So how does my student safely get from the bus depot to her Blazer dorm other than Uber or Lyft? And how safe is the Greyhound bus station?
The Greyhound bus station is really safe. That's Birmingham, I want to say it's about 4 or 5 years ago now, opened up a brand new intermodal facility. So the Amtrak, the Greyhound, and a lot of the bus service all have a nice central hub. And it is just outside of our safety escort service. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because that's something we can look at in terms of expanding our service to that area to help get people back and forth. But at this point in time, you'd probably need to use the Uber or Lyft or one of the taxi services in order to get to campus from there.
Okay, great. Thank you. We do have a question on Facebook, and it says this student needs to exchange their parking pass because they did not get into gold dorm. So how do they go about exchanging that pass?
They'll just need to bring that permit to our office, and sooner rather than later as possible would be best, so that we can go ahead and get that permit exchanged for them. Now, I'll tell you, and other than a situation like that, because that particular permit is supposed to be for those Gold Hall residents, we don't do a lot of exchanges for student permits. And the reason are twofold. One, there's so many permits that are sold and we have a very small staff. So being able to manage all of those exchanges is often not possible. The other reason is because the permits are limited in quantity, we often wouldn't have an available permit in the location they want to exchange for. So outside of just those D9A, those housing zone D9A permits, we really will not do permit exchanges.
And following up to that question, I've got another question that says, do students in Gold Hall have to have a designated permit in D9A?
They do not. It's an option that we basically, there's a small number of permits that are available in the 9th Avenue deck. And so we limit it to the Gold Hall because that's the closest dorm to it. But they can have Zone A would be just as handy for them. It's really Zone A, Zone 7, and the Zone D9A are all the housing areas. Those are all within like 2 or 3 blocks of all of the residence halls. So a very short walk for any student.
And we had an earlier question about parking after 5 p.m. Is it open, kind of open parking, or the risk of getting a ticket after 5 p.m. on weekdays and weekends?
Yeah, so on the weekend and after 5 p.m., almost all the ungated lots on campus are available for parking. Now, the one thing to be careful of is the zone H, which is I said zone 7 a minute ago. Zone 7 was redesignated as zone H. The zone H permits and zone A, those are ungated lots, but those are housing areas. So you will get a citation if you park in those areas after 5 p.m. But all the other zone B, C, D, E, and F and G are all available for parking after 5 and on the weekends. But you have to be out of those spaces prior to 5 a.m. Otherwise, you will get a citation. We have to make sure those spaces are available for the people that bought a permit. So
Definitely. We had a question on Facebook, and it was a parent question as well, family question. It had to do with the charges. And you mentioned earlier the charges will appear. They'll definitely be on their charges will show on August the 22nd. Is that something they need to be looked at for?
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure the date. It's supposed to be sometime just before the fall semester starts. I believe August 18th is the first day that charges can go over. We always have ours in, or every year that I've been here, we've gotten them in typically the Friday before school starts.
All right, awesome. And thank you everybody for their questions. We do have another question. Is there an app to find UAB students that might be driving home on weekends to different local areas and nearby cities that my student can access and catch a ride and share gas and tolls costs?
So there used to be an app. It was through a group called Zimride, but I think last year we looked into the same issue and didn't see a current Zimride opening. A lot of times, and this isn't the best way, there's probably something we could do in the future to help kind of coordinate those. And maybe that's something we can work with your group on, Carmen. But the best thing really is going to be a lot of word of mouth and having your student talk to various others. There's a lot of students coming from a lot of different places, and so it's probably not going to be too hard to find someone going to the same area.
And that would be a great way of building community and getting to know other people on campus. And that's part of what we do also we want our families to get connected through our website and through our family engagement Facebook page, because that would be ways to maybe finding transportation or somebody to share a ride with. I know that we had a couple of families from Mobile who they didn't know each other. They met here during new student orientation, and now they've decided to share rides when the student comes over. And then so those are ways of doing it. And I also think that it's very useful if parents share with us any suggestions or recommendations, and definitely questions, because that can help the transportation services also look into different things and different options. Like you mentioned, the bus station downtown.
Yep.
So
and that's why I'm writing down those kind of suggestions and questions, because those are things that are, I hate to say relatively easy in terms of what I typically have to deal with, but things that we can probably do something to help improve that service. So
yes. So definitely families, parents, students, just send us, feel free to email us at families@uab.edu with any suggestions, ideas, and definitely any other questions that you have. We do have a few more minutes for any additional questions. While we get those questions, Brian, is there anything else that you would like the families to think about as they transition to UAB at this moment, or anything they need to think about?
So as I mentioned at the beginning, originally, and I mentioned to you, Carmen, I was actually hired because we had so many people that were driving alone. And one of the things that I want, especially incoming freshmen, to think about is how much they really need their vehicle. If you've got an after school job that's not, local downtown, it might be more necessary to have that vehicle and to incur that cost. But I'll give an example of a vehicle I actually called my lonely vehicle. Last year, we were trying to kind of do a study on a specific deck, and it was actually Zone A, 16th Street parking deck. And I noticed in the cameras that we got, because we have cameras in most every parking area. I noticed on this one camera that there was a vehicle that was sitting on top of the deck. And the farthest back I had camera footage was October. And I watched it all through, and I actually built a slide presentation that just showed it on various days of the year at various times. We had a snow last year, saw it covered in snow, got it rain, got it in sun, got in thing. That car didn't move from October 22nd through April 29th. So if you want to pay me to store your kid's car, I mean, so be it. But I just want parents to think about, do they really need, is that going to be the most cost beneficial to you and your student? Or could you supplement the trips that they may need to take off campus? I know, Carmen, you mentioned, how we used to have a car sharing service, which we hope to get back, was very handy for your student who didn't bring a car. And so I just want people to think about, because I know especially those in the Birmingham area, driving, we kind of built our environment for driving. After 50 years of building a great transportation network, we spent the next 50 years building a car environment. And just try to think through if that's just really the best way for your student to get around. I mean, they're going to be really busy, especially freshmen getting, into the classes and things of that nature.
We do have two more questions. I mentioned that my son used to use the zip car when he was a freshman. And this question relates to zip cars, and I know they're not available now, but how many zip cars are available on campus and where are they located? I know they're not here right now.
So Zipcar pulled out during the pandemic, and they have not, matter of fact, I pulled it out of our slide presentation because every semester they kept saying, check back with us, and they weren't bringing back the service. And so I'm not confident that they're going to be around this semester or this academic year. So we went ahead and pulled it off of our slide presentation. We are kind of looking at different options for car sharing. Unfortunately, the car sharing providers have a lot of them shuttered during the pandemic. So still working on that one.
So there's one more question while we are here. Are there any special shuttles for Thanksgiving or holidays by Groom to Atlanta?
No, but the Groom service still operates during Thanksgiving and over the winter holidays. So you can basically go on and do the reservations on there.
Right. So there's one more question, which is awesome. Thank you very much for the question. The question is commutesmart.org an app that my student might find a ride back home 3 hours away on the weekends, or is it only for local commuting during the week?
So they wouldn't be able to get an emergency ride back home for the weekend, but if they were somewhere local, they would be able to get back to their dorm or the local apartment if they were staying close by. And it's actually not an app. I've been working with them for years, hoping they would launch an app, but you actually have to go to the commutesmart.org website to register and to log those non-drive alone commutes.
Okay, great. A family member had to step away. Can you repeat again how to exchange a pass due to a change in a dorm assignment?
So again, this is only going to really apply to those that had bought a Zone D9A for Gold Hall. They will be able to bring that permit to our office in order to exchange it. But that is going to be limited by the number of permits we still have available. So if it is the first week of school, there's a good chance we won't be able to exchange that permit. But if they're able to come by sooner, then we should be able to make that exchange for them. Now, all the other Zone A and Zone H, we most likely won't be able to make an exchange for them.
And there's a question related to Commute Smart. Do the days walking from dorm to class count for logging non-car trips?
They actually do.
There you go. Thank you.
And
That
they get
is-
paid $1 a day up to $70 in the first 90 days, and then a $25 gift card after that.
That is awesome. I mean, that's a great thing for families to take advantage, because see little hearts popping up everywhere. So,
Yeah.
The other question, zip cars are not available at UAB, but are there zip cars in the Birmingham area that you know of?
No, that at this point, for rentals, you would need to do one of the rental car companies.
Okay. We have one more question, and it's wonderful that we have questions, and this is what we're here for. So please keep the questions coming. What happens if we miss the window? I don't understand if it's for to request a parking ticket, or the question is, what happens if we miss the window? Is she refunded? So I don't know if it's that the student had a pass or didn't get a pass.
So the refund schedule for permits, that's a great question that lets me talk about a few different things. If for some reason student decides not to bring, or you decide they're not going to bring a car to campus, or their needs change, we will provide a refund for permits that are returned. However, that refund schedule follows the same as the tuition on the academic calendar. So if they look at the academic calendar, the same dates apply in terms of what percentage of the refund you get back. And the 100% refund is, matter of fact, give me just a second, I can, let's see.
Yeah, so the question was, if we miss the window for the exchange of the pass, will she be refunded? And definitely the timing will be key.
She would, and it really would depend on when that happens. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and in the chat drop the this is the academic calendar for fall 22 and 2023, and you'll see the payment deadline August 22nd. You'd have to return it by August 22nd to get a 100% refund. That's the first day of school, and then it drops to 75% between August 23rd and September 6th. And then it drops again to 50% between September 7th and September 19th. And after September 19th, there's one more, so let's see, so September 20th to October 4th, they get a 25% refund. And then after that, after October 4th, there's no additional refunds. Now, that's for the fall only. The fall spring's a little different. They would still get an amount based on the full academic year. So if they're returning a fall spring permit like the Zone HD9A, they would have a little bit longer to return that permit.
Great. And I just put that calendar link on our chat, so everybody can look at the calendar and look at some of the dates. Is it better? There's another question. Is it better to order another pass for Zone A and bring the gold one back? So for the exchange, or?
So typically the system won't allow you to do that. What I would suggest is for you to call our office, and our phone number is 205-934-3513, and that way we can talk through your specific situation. And that's going to be the fastest way to get in touch with us right now. Now, I will say the first week of school, I will warn everybody, the first week of school is always hectic. We have a lot of new students coming to campus that aren't familiar with where the parking areas or things may be. So make sure your students are kind of get comfortable with campus as ahead of time as possible. But you'll have a lot of people that maybe didn't think they'd have to have a parking permit to park in our lots. So we have some people that are legally parked, which can cause a situation where your student may call you and say, hey, I can't find a place to park. If that happens, the first thing you should ask your student is if they checked all of the parking areas in their zone, because the first question we're going to ask you or your student, it's best if your student can call us, we're going to ask them that same question, especially Zone G is made up of 7 different lots. And one thing to keep in mind, the most convenient lot, just because your student calls and says they can't find a parking space, there's a difference between not being able to park in the most convenient lot and not being able to park in any of the lots. So if by 8 o'clock, the most convenient lots are all full. And so if they're coming 8 or later, they may want to go ahead and look at some of the ones that are farther out and just plan that into their trip. But like I said, the first week can be really hectic for the students. We've got a really small, and we're short staffed at the time. So please be patient with us, but things will get better pretty quickly. So, but please have that number, that 205-934-3513. That's going to be the fastest way to get assistance. You may have to call back once or twice on the first couple of days, but we will follow up with you.
Yes, so we have placed, like I said, the calendar, and so it's on our chat. So just copy paste it to your to a page, or save it on your bookmark it. And we also have placed the phone number where you can call and if you have any specific questions about a specific case that pertains to your student. So again, it's the first couple of days, so there's going to be a lot of questions, but I know they're there and very willing to help. And there's the website.
I want to make sure
the website.
Everything I've covered is available on the UAB transportation website. So uab.edu/transportation. The transportation options has the links to Groom, to Commute Smart, to Safety Escort, to Mars. All the information about parking is available, the regulations, route information for the Blazer Express under that tab, and our contact us page in case you need to reach out to us directly.
So everything, so all the links are there, and if anyone wants to take a screenshot, again, this webinar will be live. You will be able to watch it again on Facebook right after we are done today, and then it will be posted on our website with captions within the next week. But if you have any additional questions, any specific questions, please don't hesitate to write to us. Again, our email is families@uab.edu, and if we don't have the answer, we'll definitely know where to find Brian and get your answers back to you. But please, we know this is a very exciting moment, but it's also a very intense and stressful moment up to a point where you're sending your student to a new place, but we're here to help you in that transition, and we're all working very closely and together to make that transition as smooth as possible. So I don't see any more questions at the time. Again, I'll say this until exhaustion. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to send your question to us. There's no question that is a dumb question or a silly question. We all have questions, and we're here to help you. We want to thank Brian again for being here with us today. And I also want to remind you to please take a few minutes to answer our survey on our, you should have gotten it by now. If not, it'll be coming through in a couple of minutes. It's very helpful for us to know what else we can help you with. And again, if you have any suggestions, recommendations, or anything that we need to think about, we're here to help you. And we need your input too. So that's very helpful. So thank you, Brian, for being here with us today. And we look forward to seeing everybody on campus soon, and have a great rest of your day.
Y'all too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.